Distinguished Service Award to Andrew M. Nunez, member of the Iota chapter, initiated on the 14th day of December, 1991. In grateful recognition of his lifetime of generosity to and steadfast support of the Iota Alpha chapter of Zeta Psi fraternity, serving several positions, including chapter president, elder treasurer of the Zeta Psi of Texas Incorporated Alumni Association, Circle of Honor of the New York Elders Association, the International Fraternity, the Zeta Psi Educational Foundation, charter member of the Zeta Psi Heritage Society, and a member of the Fraternity Executives Association. In profound appreciation of his dedicated and loyal service to the Iota Alpha chapter and other chapters of Zeta Psi, as Executive Director, Trustee, Treasurer, Vice President, and President of the Zeta Psi Educational Foundation, and as Executive Director, Executive Committee Member, Gamma Alpha, Delta Alpha, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Phi Alpha number 134 of Zeta Psi fraternity, in recognition of a lifetime of extraordinary service and generosity to Zeta Psi fraternity, Zeta Psi Educational Foundation, to the international fraternity movement, and to mankind, presented at this 175th convention of Zeta Psi fraternity in Brooklyn, New York, on the 20th day of August, 2022. I hereby present, and am honored to present, to my friend and to one of the accomplished saints of our order, the Distinguished Service Award to Andrew Nunez.
Well, it's always hard to be introed by Greg McElroy, huh? Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Matthew Nunez, and I'm damn proud to be a Texas Zeta. That's a cheap one. I'm also proud to be the son of an NYU Zeta. More on that later. Finally, I'm proud to be married to a Canadian who I stole away from a McGill Zeta. Take that, Canada. You'll hear nothing else from me on that later, by the way. But looking at all of you right now, I realize I'm just proud to be a Zeta, period. It's so great to congregate again, y'all. Thank you for being here. This speech has very special meaning to me, not only because I'm getting this award, but because of all the things we've been through in the last couple of years. I don't need to spell it out to you how the pandemic affected us. You guys are all there. But it makes being here with our brothers, our significant others, our friends, so important. We are reminded that life is about celebrating the simple moments. And that brings me to the theme of my speech tonight, porch sitting, and how Zeta Psi changed my life. But before I start, I gotta say how great it is to be up here with Bart Gillen. When they asked me if I wanted to do the DSA at the 175th convention, I of course was flattered. Honestly, I told Stephen Halpern I didn't think any one person or me was worthy of getting this honor in this seminal moment. Because of that, I was not only honored, but a little bit embarrassed and a little nervous. So when the awards committee came back to me and said that they wanted to add another DSA awards winner tonight, I was relieved, but still a little concerned. As many of you know, I have brevity issues, and Greg McElroy is introducing me, so you guys you already were shaping up for a really long night. And then they told me they were thinking of Barth, and that changed everything. So I'm not just honored, but humbled to be with him here tonight. Let's have another round for Barth. Okay, let's get on to port sitting. There are few things a Texan enjoys more than port sitting. Other parts of the world, they have their own versions. Here in Brooklyn, it's stoop sitting. In France, it's cafe time. In Britain, it's tea time. But Texans have taken this simple activity to an art form. And when I say port sitting, it really means sitting on a porch. At UT, the UT house, and at the UT house, anyone could sit on our porch. Zates, non-Zates, it didn't matter. But it was the Zate domain, and you were invited, or at least you had to be a regular. I'm not going to say everyone was equal on our porch, but we were all accepted. And your status was most definitely defined by what you brought to the porch. Intellect, humor, music, beer, or just general coolness defined your rank on the porch. Most of all, you had to have the ability to tell a story. And that was the porch's first life lesson to me. Be authentic. Earn your place in your community. The porch offered a venue for us to learn that. On any given day, there were serious moral and political debates. Guitars playing, cheap beer and food, and jokes, lots of joking. We solved the world's problems every day. Then we went to sleep and repeated the next day. Yes, we might have missed some classes, but we were still being educated. We had Zeta scholarships, parties. Zeta Psi had networking and a chance to run a small business while you were in college. Still, what I learned about people in life on that porch had no other academic equivalent. This was another porch lesson. A good life is defined by the space in between. You know, when you're born, you're only guaranteed one thing, and that's that you will die. All else is a variable. I don't think our inevitable deaths is a morbid thought. Rather, it's a challenge to live life well. The porch taught me you can live life Hemingway style or Thurber style. Both are equally good as long as you avoid regrets. You can have mistakes, just don't have regrets. You know, that's where many of the writers get it wrong. Our heroes don't have better lives, they just have better stories. Too often we go through life attempting to create a better story for ourselves, and we miss the space in between that defines a good life. Sometimes that space in between is just sharing time on a porch. Zate taught me how to be more present and focus less on defining the lines of my young life and more on coloring in the space in between. It's true. Life happens when you're trying to figure out how to live. Zate taught me this truism far sooner than I would have learned it otherwise, and in doing so, I now see I've lived a better life. The very best thing about that porch is that it's still there. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know about you, but when I go back to my university, I don't go back to my college dorm or apartment. I don't go to hang out with any of the people that were in the clubs I belonged to. I don't have dinner with random students in my major, but I do go back to that porch in the Zate house. And even if the house wasn't there, there would be some Zates somewhere in Austin meeting up to do whatever they wanted to do and having porch time. Doing the same things we did 30 years ago. They would welcome me in just knowing I was a Zate. We can do that anywhere in the world now, when there's ever more than just a handful of Zates present. We do this not because we're friends or we know each other, really. We do this because we share the same belief in a concept. The porch is a concept, not a place. Beyond this award, as Greg mentioned, this month has special meaning to me. It was 25 years ago this week that Zeta Psi celebrated its 150th convention. And we celebrated the life of my mentor and surrogate father, Greg McElroy. We did this at a special banquet near HQ in Pearl River, and it was after that banquet that I did propose to my amazing wife, Heather, on the shores of the Hudson. She said yes. She said, of course. I had just turned 25. Now I'm 25. Now I'm 50 years old. And I've learned lots of things in the last 25 years. I built businesses with brothers and had falling outs. I've been to weddings and funerals of brothers. I've loved and hated. Regardless, we're still Zates, and that didn't change. Zeta Psi is not just an organization or a club. For 175 years, there have been Zates sitting on some porch somewhere. And as long as we hold to that belief and concept, we will continue to exist. In the end, our small part in its timeline is not to make rules or create programs or even to inspire others with awards. We're here to make venue. And there's no better venue than to do some porch sitting, the moments in between. How I became a Zate is also a porch-worthy story. As Greg said, my dad was an NYU Zate. He was a brilliant man. He developed the world's first lasers and spoke several languages. He was briefly a minor league baseball player and generally the greatest father ever. When my parents first dropped me off at UT my freshman year, my dad did secretly peel off and he contacted the Zate chapter house. He talked to the incoming president and he told them that his son was going to be coming to UT. And apparently he talked to Greg too, didn't know that. A little later, I was initiated in Zate, still not knowing I was a legacy. I never knew. When I went back home, the next school break, I was nervous to tell my parents I'd joined a fraternity. I also wanted to hit them up to pay the dues for me. When I walked in the door, my dad, who rarely shook his son's hand at that point, pushed forward, reached out to me, and greeted me in the only way a Zate could. I was so surprised, I nearly knocked him over. He just cracked a smile. That's all he did. Later, he told me, it was your decision, not mine. They never paid the dues, though. That was always on me. My dad would later contract non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. 2 years later, I was called back during a summer session my junior year because they had just put him in hospice. I remember thinking about all the things I would say to my dad while driving back to Dallas about how much I loved him and would miss him. When I walked into the bedroom, I saw the cancer had nearly took all of him. It had ravaged his body. He could barely move. He couldn't speak. But there was still life in his eyes. I was so overwhelmed, I completely forgot what I was going to say. So I just awkwardly grabbed his hand and slipped in the grip. He just smiled. Those are the last words I shared with my dad. We sat there for nearly hours, but he never let go of my hand. That was excellent porch sitting. So that's what it's all about, folks. It's about the time you spend between the lines. I want to thank you for this great honor. It truly is. I want to thank you for sharing your time with me tonight, but mostly I look forward to spending more time with y'all on a porch someday. Thanks again.
Let's go.